Hi everyone, Jero here. It's about midnight. I'm just doing my very final pass for balancing and doing the very final testing for the Hero of Destiny was killed by the final boss. I'll show you some cool things here in the options. I'll turn the sound effects off just so we can hear me speak more clearly without all the sound effects. You can actually turn permadeath off if you don't want your characters to die permanently. Camera invert, for your horizontal camera control. It doesn't really matter that much in this game. You don't really control the camera that much. For people that want to have some challenge runs for themselves, you can actually turn off no EXP gain, and that means your characters just won't level up. You can turn this on and off freely. So say you have your characters, get close to level 5 or 10, and then you want to leave it there, you can turn EXP off, and then your characters won't gain EXP. You can have easy mode on as well. If you're playing with a younger family member, then you can turn easy mode on, and that means that the enemies will have half their health and do half damage, so it's less frustrating for the younger players, whereas people that want the challenge can go ahead and just turn that off. Now, high-res mode off and on. I'll show you what it looks like with high-res mode off, and I'll just continue. Now, I had a pretty good save file. I had to start new, as happens unfortunately when you're developing and testing games. You have to often start your save file over. I'm just going to zoom out the camera a little bit so we can see the screen a little more. There we go. So you can see in town here, there's a lot of different services you can go through. Really what's important is upgrading your armor and your weapons. When you explore town, you'll find a bunch of things, and there's so much lore and there's fun story when you're talking to these characters, They all have something interesting to say. I want to explore the idea of what happens to these characters. What point do they have if the hero that's meant to save the world, if the hero gets killed? What are they supposed to do? So all of these characters sort of exploring this weird limbo that they feel like they're in, because wait a second, my job revolved around the Hero of Destiny, and now he's dead. What am I supposed to do now? I think that's such a fun idea to explore. And I really just, I tried to explore as many different avenues as I could, but also there's a lot of humor that, if you are a gamer and you've been gaming for a long time, it's the kind of thing that you would really understand, So we'll go ahead and do some battles, but what I will actually do is turn high-res mode on now. So we see the game. This is how the game is meant to look. I really want it to have that Game Boy Advanced kind of look to it. You can soft reset the game, of course, with the ZR, ZL, plus and minus. So let's go ahead and go to extras. You don't need to unlock these. These are unavailable from the word go. You have 3 save slots. And let's start up our save file again, and you'll see that the game is now in high resolution mode. So I'll go ahead and we'll just do some quick battles. So there's characters, they'll give you hints. The game doesn't just sort of leave you hanging. You talk to the characters, it's important, and they'll give hints. They won't talk to you like a tutorial, but they'll give hints on what you can do. Basically, you need to find a way to close the power gap, because this is the final area of the game. And these are not heroes. These are all level 0 NPCs. So you can recruit up to 50. There are up to, there's more than 50 characters that you can recruit. You can have up to 8 at a time. And if we have a look at the skills here, nobody has magic. It's a little bit of a joke. If you look at the stats here, you'll see that everyone's magic stat is at 0. Nobody ever gains magic. Originally, I was going to have it to where it displayed MP, and MP was always at 0, but it took up valuable real estate on the screen, so I just left that out. I thought it was going to be a funny joke, but it just wasted too much space on screen, unfortunately. So if you open up your skills menu, this is how you close the skill gap. The enemies they're going to overpower you, and you have to find a way to close that skill gap, and this is one way you can do it. So none of these characters have any kind of very useful abilities. None of them are overpowered. There's no magic, but there are things that you can use to just incrementally increase your abilities. For example, dance. The user's power and defense and speed increase, and now you can deal significantly more damage, you take less damage, and you can move more quickly. So for a character like the dancer, who's generally not that strong, when you suddenly have a boost to attack, defense, and speed, you can rush in there. You know, if you hold down the attack button for one of your weapons, your whole party will stay locked facing one direction, so you can keep facing the enemy, and it's quite an agile way to deal with enemies. To me, this kind of battle system feels very mechanically satisfying, and that's, you know, I've spent weeks just testing and fine-tuning, just testing to making sure it feels so mechanically satisfying, and I think it really hits that action RPG spot for me. Eventually you will go up against enemies that will just overpower you, so you go ahead and open up your menu and you see you've got a couple different options. So with the Alchemist, you can drop a bad elixir on the ground, and that's one of the only area of effect options you have, really, basically. And it's just, you know, it's not powerful magic, but it's just a bad elixir, and it'll damage enemies on contact. You know, it's not super powerful, but it's certainly helpful. You have Beast Calm, and this is such a valuable move. This, if you hit enemies with this, it stops them from dealing damage to you on contact for 7 seconds. Let's go ahead, and you can see the Soothsayer is indicated with the yellow arrow over her head. They're within range, so we'll go ahead and hit Beast Calm, and you can see that now they don't deal damage to me, but it only lasts 7 seconds, of course. Let's go ahead and take a look. We can build a fence. You can try to zone. This is extremely useful for boss fights as well, though. There's certain characters that can build structures, and it has a pretty short cooldown period, so you can actually trap enemies. You can sort of corral them and build them into a corner, and it gives you a chance to zone them out with projectile characters. And there are bosses that will just wreck you. They have abilities that are just a huge pain. They can grab you, and there's not much you can do. But if you have Oil Splash, you hit an enemy with this, and it stops the enemies from being able to grab you. So generally, if a character isn't that strong, they might have something like Oil Splash, which is useful. This character also has Dance, Throw Stick. If you've interacted with an enemy, then you can automatically lock onto them. So when you use a projectile like Stick Throw, you'll see that the character will automatically turn and hit that enemy. Let's go ahead. The Gravedigger can pray, and pray, it auto-kills ghosts, and it briefly prevents enemies from throwing projectiles and using special attacks. It also stuns them for a brief moment. It gives you a chance to get some space, and you can figure out what you're going to do next. You can also use Team Bandage. Now that's only supposed to restore 20, but I actually have equipment. If you look at the Innkeeper, he is wearing green sleeves, and that is equipment that you can find that actually increases your healing abilities. So normally, you know, the Innkeeper's Team Bandage doesn't do that much, but it does make a difference if you can get an extra +10 on the heal. And the Beast Keeper can actually use a summon move called Beast Release. Released a beast that might help you for a short time, so I'll use that. I've got a tiny little pink slime with me. Now generally the summons don't last very long in this game, and there's multiple characters that can summon. If you take a look at the Beast Keeper at the very bottom, he's wearing a frilly shirt, and the frilly shirt increases the duration of your summons. So there's different equipment in the game that will enhance specific traits and stats, so that you can basically just have creative freedom and try to do character builds that fit your strategy. If you want to figure out how to use characters a certain way, if you decide you want to take a particular strategy, between all the characters, you know, they are all NPCs, but that doesn't mean that they have, you know, all the same abilities. They all have a unique way to contribute to a party, and this is such a fun concept for me, because I can't just say, oh, you know, it's a fantasy game, I'll do a knight and an archer and a black mage. In this game, there are no heroes, so I had to come up with totally different ideas for characters. I couldn't just rely on archetypes, and I couldn't just say, oh, I know what a black mage is, a red mage, we'll just do that. In this game, there's no such thing, so every single character just has some sort of weird, unique thing going on. And I think something like that's going to be really, really refreshing for people. I just wanted to give people something new and interesting, you know. For example, like Astrologize, you have the Soothsayer, and the Soothsayer can stop enemies from using special attacks. You know, that's quite a big area that hits. The potion does that as well, but you see the potion actually does damage as well. So it's harder to hit enemies. You know, these kind of do the same thing, but this one actually deals damage. But you see, it's pretty weak. It only did 1 damage to those guys, but it goes through enemies, and you know, if you power up your characters, they do get stronger as well. So let's see. Let's check what I've got. So I've got 290 green drop right now. I'll go ahead and grab just a couple more, and I'll show what it's like to increase the level of your armor. You know what? That's probably fine. Oh no, my guy, I've left him there. You know, and for me, I just really adore this kind of controlling your whole party, and I think I came up with this idea because I was so frustrated with Final Fantasy. You know, the modern Final Fantasies, they're not about an ensemble cast. They're about one star character, and then everyone is just a groupie, and they're not really party members. They're just groupies, and that really frustrated me. And I just want to be able to control my party. What is so hard about letting the player control a whole party and treating all the characters as equals? And so for this game, I think I came up with this concept because I was so frustrated with Final Fantasy, and they refused to make a game that I want to play in terms of just controlling a party, man, you know? And so in this, every party member is equal. You can see that you have one lead character, but you really are controlling all the other characters. When you attack, they all attack, and you can access everyone's skills immediately. And if I wasn't so frustrated with how modern Final Fantasy has turned out, I don't think I would have come up with this idea for a battle system. Again, I came up with this because I wanted you to have full control of a huge party with a range of characters that all have wild, outlandish, different loadouts for their abilities. So you can take a look. I'm using a green drop. Defeating the green slimes gives you green drop, and you can see I've leveled up my farmer tunic. But you can see my lumberjack vest, so you can toggle through your character so you can change the order, and the character that's at top is going to be the lead character. That is my alchemist, and you can see his lumberjack vest is level 0. So we'll go ahead and just level that up. We'll enhance the armor. Okay, thank you very much. If we open the menu, you'll see that it's now level 1, and it actually took a fair bit of work. Normally the only way to change characters is when you don't have any menus open, but I realized as I was testing that it sucked having to open that, close it, and then switch that. So yesterday I did some extra programming, and I added into where you can change the order of your characters through that menu. And it's very important to do testing like that and to understand how are people going to feel when they play this. When the players engage with these mechanics, how are they going to feel? And I see so many developers, especially from huge AAA studios that I really used to respect, they don't do that. There's absolutely no care as to how the player would feel when it comes to engaging with the game itself. So my priority when I'm conceptualizing and fine-tuning my games is how are people going to feel when they engage with this game. And so as you wander around town, you'll find a bunch of different equipment just scattered around, and it'll say what it does. So there's a lumberjack vest here. It might allow you to use skills faster. Do you want to wear it? You know, and I don't want to mess up my loadout. I did consider what I have right now based on my characters, but it's really what you want to do with your characters. You know, there's something over here, and that is there's a sparkly tunic here. It might increase your ability to stun enemies. Do you want to wear it? You know, and of course you can enhance these different equipments as well. And I did it this way, and I made it totally different from how it would be in other games because I want this to feel different. You're not playing as the heroes in this game, you're playing as the NPCs. And so NPCs wouldn't just go to a shop and buy equipment. You know, they would probably just go to their house and wear it, or go to their friend's house and say, oh, I think I'm going to wear your shirt, you know. So I want this to feel mechanically different, conceptually different, not just for the sake of being different, but because you are not playing as the heroes. And so conceptually it should be different, it should feel different, and that reinforces that subconsciously. And also it adds a sense of reward for exploring and wandering around. And you know when you memorize things in a game where things are, it feels really satisfying, doesn't it? You know, here's the frilly shirt. This is what you want to wear if you have a summon character. That increases the duration, as I mentioned before, and you can level up the power of your summons and the duration of your summons as well. So my summon character is this guy. This is my Beast Keeper, so I'll talk to the crystal. The summoning crystallium shimmers with mysterious warmth. Neat. I've seen heroes use these, but I've never used one myself before. Fire gems are needed to use it, so I need to go and collect some fire gems, and then I could level up the power and the duration of my summons. So that's just some of the game. You know, I think people are just going to find this so fun. You know, my core priority with this game is, man, this just has to be fun. This has to feel fun. It has to feel satisfying to play. The fact that there's more than 50 characters for you to build parties out of is going to give you so much replay value, and it feels so rewarding to just build parties out of different characters, because based on your party makeup, you're going to have to deal with certain enemies and certain battles very, very differently. So anyway, I have to save my game because it just doesn't feel right turning off a game without saving it. I have defeated some enemies. So thanks very much for spending some time with me today. We'll check in again soon. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this. Again, I'm just doing my final pass here. I'm submitting this to Nintendo and Steam tomorrow. This is my very final task. I just did some very, very final last bit of fine-tuning and balancing, and that's it. Take care, everyone. All right, I'll see you around.